Okay. So, um, how you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, thanks for offering to do this. I've been I don't think we've ever officially met, so this has been great to get on the phone and get a chance to meet. For everybody who's watching this, we have Mark Smith on the line from Asylum Fitness. Um, I'm going to go through a list of things that Mark's involved in. Mark, if I miss anything, I apologize. You can add to this list, but Mark is head coach and owner of Asylum Fitness, a contributor to Awake and Alive, Onnit Academy, Fitness Commonwealth. Um he is a dedicated outdoorsman, a functional movement specialist, elite Highland Games athlete,
No, I don't know
and
about elite.
yeah, a sponsored athlete and outdoor contributor and male model for Silverwolf Nutrition. Um, that's a pretty long list, Mark. Did I cover everything, or did I leave anything out?
I think that's pretty good. I mean, I've
Yeah.
dabbled in martial arts a little bit too,
Uh-huh.
and then but I primarily focus on the movement coaching aspect of what I do, getting people to move better. And other than that, you covered everything. That
Yeah.
was a pretty good list. I guess I'm doing all right these days then, based on that list.
So what were you up to today before we got started?
Well, right before we got started, I was just wrapping up an article for Silverwolf Nutrition, following up one I did earlier last week on ways the everyday man can enjoy the outdoors better. And then in that, I alluded to these are just ways that to make you have a good time, but there's always the chance that things can go bad pretty quickly in outdoors. So this follow-up article was on what happens when the shit hits the fan and it does become a survival situation. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's been sent off to get edited, and hopefully we'll have that up soon for you guys to read. And then before that, I was at a networking event at a private dining club called City Club, and they have a a monthly meet up the first Wednesday of every month, and it's pretty cool to walk in and you just kind of shake hands with other business owners, fellow entrepreneurs, and people in the community doing trying to promote their business, and it's a great catalyst for launching some small business chit chat. Today was cool. I walked in and like three people were, I guess, have been following me on Facebook recently. Like, oh my gosh, man, you're blowing up. You're like a model now. I love following the articles and everything. And they were talking about the lizard tutorial that I shot for you at Awake and Alive a couple weeks ago. So that was kind of fun to see that the stuff you're putting out there on social media, the information is being received and being well received uh, by the community. So I was encouraged by that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing just how easy it is to connect with people from all over the world. I've met people from India. I got a friend. I'm not exactly sure where he's from, but I just posted something in one of the groups one day, and he just started sending me messages, and we kind of became friends. So with the time difference, it's hard to connect, but if by chance we're on at the same time, he almost always contacts me, and it's just amazing. I never thought somebody would see something that I'm doing on Facebook halfway around the world. So how did you get hooked up with Silver Wolf Nutrition? Did Eric Douglas see something that you did on Facebook, or was it through a friend?
Well, I've worked with Mark DeGrasse, Fitness Commonwealth, for a long time. I got hooked up with him whew, uh, 4 years ago at this point, I think. Uh, at least three, I think 4 years ago when he was with My Mad Methods. A great magazine, awesome, unconventional magazine. That was, I first got a subscription to it as I thought it was so cool. And it was at the time in my career the only source of information for unconventional training from other coaches writing it, and there's all these people that I'm now great friends with I mean, I used to look up to these people and be like, oh man, that guy's legend, and I'm reading their material and stuff. And now I talk to these people like I'm talking to you, just normal, everyday guys that I've built a camaraderie with in this community. But it all started with my man methods. I did a doomsday challenge. This was the year 2012, so it was 4 years ago. In 2012, the Mayan prediction for the end of the world was out there. So he put out this workout. It was this 24-hour fitness challenge, and I want to say there were 12 events in it, and each one had like this gold standard or something. This invite goes out all over the world, Mike. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I think like 7,000, 8,000 some people got the invite, responded on Facebook, ended up being out of the whole world that did it. There was a group of 3 guys in South Africa. I still talk with some of those guys. They did it. We all did it the same day, the last day in December, 2012. And I think only 11 people actually completed it or something like that. Well, turns out I posted the best score for this whole fitness challenge, this 24-hour thing. And I was really involved in the Facebook message group, trying to encourage people and talk and just be real positive about it. Mark reached out to me after I'd won it, said, "Hey, you won. There was all these prizes and everything. Would you like to write an article?" And that's where it all started. I wrote an article about my experience, and he liked my writing. I became one of his main writers for a while, and he's kind of whatever he's been a part of, whether it be Onnit or Fitness Commonwealth, he's always included me in. Uh, and he reached out to me about a month and a half ago and said, "This guy, Eric Douglas, is going to give you a phone call." He was asking for writers for this nutritional company. It's targeting guys age 35 to 55. It's a cool little plant-based nutrition. And sure enough, Eric Douglas shot me an email the next week, and we got started. He wanted me to write outdoor content for him.
That's awesome. Yeah, actually, I found you through an article you had written for Onnit, so that must have been after my mad methods. But I remember I found this cool article you wrote about climbing trees. And at the time, I was with another. I was with Hold Fast the Iron, and just I've read that article and found you and just started following you, and you just seem like such an interesting guy. I start kind of again, it's just one of those cool things where I just read an article, started following you, and the next thing you know, we're buddies and we're doing stuff together. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool how it works out. And Mark, I actually told this story tonight to somebody that they were asking me kind of how everything worked out, and I it was a fellow coach in here in Wilmington that had asked me about it, and I said, when Mark had gone over to Onnit to start with the educational side of their program, because they were a supplement company, and then they were doing some equipment, then they wanted to get into an academy and the educational aspect of unconventional fitness, which is a really cool concept for a company that had so many resources. I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity. I mean, they've got the finances, they've got the manpower, and they've got the following to really put out some great material. So he brought me, said, "Hey man, come on over here," and they even flew me out there for the inaugural beta test of the Onnit Academy certification. And that was a great experience. Some fantastic people, wonderful facilities. Got to finally meet John Wolf in person. He's been a big influence, especially in my early years of unconventional training. So got to meet him and Jim Romig. I know you're a big fan of him. What a fantastic human being he is. And Eric Malad, that dude has no quitting his motor. This is a guy that 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. he's just wide open, perky,
Who's that
and full
again?
of life. Eric Isak Malad.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah. He's the steel mace guy.
Yep, Steel Mace guy. Yep, a
Uh,
Warrior Flow.
hmm
Uh, yeah, so great group of guys I got to spend time with, and then when Mark went over to do Fitness Commonwealth, same thing. Just connected. I still keep in touch with some of those guys from Onnit. I don't write as much for them. That there's still several of my articles in the resource page. Uh, Most of my writing is done when people ask me to write something. I don't just write an article and then send it to somebody.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's probably why I don't write for Onnit as much anymore, because they're not directly asking me right now, which is fine. But if they did, I'd have no problem writing for them.
Oh yeah, yeah. It seems like as they've evolved, they've got some. I don't know if they're staff writers, but they seem like they have some regular contributors. Maybe they're full-time staff, because some of their the bios, it says that they work for Onnit Labs, or they're Onnit Academy
Yeah.
trainers, or
Yeah.
so I don't know. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned gym, because I was in a car accident back in November, and I've had some nagging tendonitis, and so I reached out to him and had him show me a couple moves that he ended up posting as through Instagram for me. Um, for shoulder moves, and I've never met him, but he was quick to respond, and showed me some things that kind of loosened me up. But
Jim's a rare breed. We actually ended up, we spent that whole weekend together and really clicked. And then we actually rode to the airport together and had similar flight times. So we chilled at the airport that last day I was in Austin, and that kind of one-on-one time, I'll never forget just sitting with him. He's just such a real guy, and his heart comes from such a genuine place. Um, he just, it doesn't matter. He's got such enthusiasm to help people. It's very sincere, and it's not a common trait you see. So I think that's what makes him such an interesting guy, is because his enthusiasm and passion for others is from such a deep, sincere spot in his heart that it really is something special, and people gravitate towards that. There's a reason he's successful. It's because people are definitely drawn to that, and he knows his shit. I mean, that guy is sharp as nails. He's doing his thing now. They just what did he just renamed Medball Athletics to
I think I saw that something.
in-ground in-ground move. It was a cool name, but I
Yeah,
just thought
yeah,
I just thought this, so
saw
I
it.
haven't got it memorized yet. But
Yeah,
uh,
it's definitely going to be worth checking out, though, because some of the
oh,
stuff he posts, like especially when he's like outside playing on hanging from playgrounds, is just is incredible. I mean, he
he's
does
really
some.
he's really been consistent with that too. The last few
Mhm.
weeks, he's put something up every day, and it's encouraging, because that's a big thing at Asylum Fitness. Is even the shirt right here says, let's see if you can see that, "Born to move, live to play." It's like we're born movers, and then kids play, adults don't. And big part of my philosophy is trying to get people to play. And so when I see other adults, other trainers embracing this concept of play, and the amount of learning, kinesthetic learning and mental learning that goes on when we play, it's significant, and it's lost in our society, and it's lost in our human nature as we age, and it's something that we need to go back and get. So I really get excited when I see other guys playing, and that's what he's doing when he's out on the playground, messing around.
Yeah, it seems like maybe that's part of the willingness of everybody to share is everybody's got their training businesses, but it is just in a way about getting the message out and sharing this information, because like you said, unconventional training and doing some of this stuff is very unique, and it's not something you see in mainstream fitness at Globo gyms, or even within the CrossFit community. A lot of those other areas are very regimented in their systems, and free play is just something that is completely absent most of the time. Um, I guess maybe you could elaborate more on like exactly what is unconventional fitness, and then maybe how you got into it. I guess where you started, how you got into it, and how you try to teach that to other people. I'm sure a lot of your clients are desk jockeys and um, or desk monkeys, as you've referred to me multiple times. But
Yes,
uh,
desk monkey.
yeah, but I don't know. I guess I'll just leave it there and let maybe you could share a little bit on that.
Well, do you want the long version or the short version of that? Because that's a big question. I mean, that question is everything from when I was a child to where I'm at today. So
YouTube gives us an 8 hour max window for this recording, so I guess you could take as
I'm
long as you
gonna need
want.
the short version then if it's only 8 hours.
Okay.
Take the short version. As all right, so your question is how did I get into unconventional training, and then ultimately what does that mean towards the desk monkeys?
Or if you say you had a bodybuilder, somebody who had just been lifting weights super heavy, doing body parts splits, pounding protein shakes, you're just your typical meathead walks into your gym. How do you, I guess aside from how you got into it, how would you help that person evolve?
All right, I'll get there. So I was a gym rat by about I really set in by about sophomore year of college. I had previous experience in the gym. My parents managed a local family gym. It was a great experience growing up. I kind of always like Saturdays was family day at the gym, even when I was a kid. You know, whether I was in the daycare program or when I was old enough to be on the floor with my mom and dad. You know, we are kind of lifting weights. And in college, by sophomore year, I went home that Christmas break and I spent basically the whole Christmas break in the gym with my dad at, I believe at the time it was a World's Gym. And it used to be an old movie theaters. This thing was huge. And just lifted, got real excited, got back into fitness and lifting weights. And then it was the next few years was about getting strong and trying to put on that college muscle, you know, for the ladies and just for myself. So I like pursued this idea of getting big. And I've always been a small person. When I was going my sophomore year of high school, I was still 5'2", 108 pounds at the end of my sophomore year of high school. All right, so that's a very small person. And in college, I was 5'8" and a half, 125 entering college. When I started lifting all these weights, I was about 130 and just stayed there. So I'm lifting weights, lifting weights. My senior year, I am cramming the weight gainer shake. I'm choking down these 990 calorie shakes from Max Human Performance. I'm sick to my stomach all the time. I'm taking a pre-work supplement, a post-workout supplement, a protein shake after that, and then I'm stuffing my face with like steak and chicken at night, looking at a poster of Randy Couture, the natural, on the side of my fridge, just saying we can do it, Captain America. And I'm like getting sick trying to eat. Then I go to bed and I take another 990 calorie shake. I'm just bloated and sick all the time. I'm lifting heavy, super heavy. I was pound for pound probably the strongest dude in the gym. And I just kind of kept that mentality for a while. So that was graduating college, you know, then going into 22, 23, same thing, lifting. I mean, I had these marathon workouts, Mike. I'd be in there 2, 3 hours. So I'm 23 and a half years old. I'm working at Gold's Gym here in Wilmington, North Carolina, still doing the gym thing. At this point, I have started to take and adopt some unconventional, a more unorthodox approach. I'm doing a little bit more circuits. I'm doing some functional type stuff, some weird, funky things with dumbbells, and people are looking at me weird. I'm starting some crawling patterns, and I'm starting to embrace this idea of doing things differently. But I'm still just lifting heavy for the sake of lifting heavy and just pounding the muscle isolation, you know, the back day and the shoulder day and leg day, and I had all that. So everything starts to hurt. I can't touch my toes. Okay, bending forward, I can't touch my toes. I can't do a human resting squat. Westerners refer to it as the Asian squat. It's just a damn squat. It's not an Asian squat. It's what humans supposed to do. Kids do it. We should be able to do it. I can't do that. Not even close. I mean, I'm like falling over when I hit parallel. My shoulder mobility going overhead is not there. It's forward. I can't even get my arm by my ear. and I just ache all the time. My back hurts, my knees hurt, my ankles hurt, my shoulders. My shoulders are killing me all the time. My neck hurt. I get out of bed one day, and here I am, the head trainer over there at Gold's Gym, and I say, man, something's not right. I'm supposed to be this specimen of health. I'm in the gym all the time. I'm definitely the fittest dude in the gym. If you start measuring stuff, like what's this dude's deadlift? How much does he weigh? Look how fast he can run a mile. Look how fast he can sprint. Look how high he can jump. But something went clicking. I just ached all the time. About that same time, I went to a Perform Better one-day workshop in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm actually going to one in 2 weeks in Charlotte. Actually, like 10 days. Going to another one. They have 4 speakers. And I was excited to see Martin Rooney. I was a big fan of training for Warriors at the time. Still am. Still a big Martin Rooney fan. But I was mainly going because this guy that was like a celebrity trainer to me in my young career was there. And I was going to meet him and hear him talk. So I go there and I hear a guy named Gray Cook speak. And Gray Cook's talking about the functional movement scan, the functional movement screen, the FMS. And he's talking about mobility. He's like, what's the point of being strong and all this stuff if you can't even scratch your back? You got these big guys walking around, they can't do anything. What's it for? And all of a sudden, light bulbs start to go off. Then he talks about the statue of David. And he's like, it's famous because it's supposed to be this, it's basically the perfect human form. And he goes, do you think that David had a chest day and a back day? Do you think he had a leg day? Do you think he was sitting there on a lifestyle, a life fitness machine doing leg extensions? No, he was labor. He worked. He bent. He twist. He squatted. He lunged. He did all this pressing stuff, all this physical stuff, and he used his whole body at one time. And that was it for me, Mike. Like that was the click, click, click. The bells went off. I was like, this is it. I need to pursue functional fitness and learn how to move better. And so from then on, that's where it went. The progress from there went to I went and got my FMS a couple months later, and then I found MoveNet or Juan LaCour's program. I went and did my level 1 in April of 2013. I think 2013, November of 2013. I went to get my level 2. And then I found Ido Portal, huge fan of his work and the kind of idea of freedom within the body, being able to just move without limitation, self-dominance, this sort of thing. I went to Dublin in 2014 to see, to attend his workshop. And that's kind of where I'm at now. So I have this like hybridization of movement and trying to get people to move better. And then I've adopted a lot of play, incorporated a lot of roughhousing. Influences with the roughhousing have been guys like Ben Metter, and he's in England, and then Rafe Kelly here in the States. And he's done some cool things with trees and I'm moving back in this connection with nature. We're real like-minded in that aspect. We had him out in September to do a workshop. And so it's kind of this assimilation of all these influences, what I believe to be true, which is I've always loved being outside. And I'm very playful. I took a Facebook quiz. It said playful was one of my biggest attributes. I thought that was good because Facebook quizzes that's kind of where it's kind of where all your information needs to come from about your personalities.
Facebook has you figured out, man. It's part of the matrix.
Yeah, definitely. They got me figured out. So, and then on top of that, I've always enjoyed being strong. I never really moved away from that. So I still keep my conventional deadlifts. I don't hit squats as much as I used to. But I also am a big fan of strongman lifts. So I do a lot of the Atlas stones and the farmer's walks and these sort of things. And then now recently I have gained an interest in Highland games. So that gives me an explosive aspect of training that I haven't really played with in years. So everything's been a lot of slow control movement patterns in terms of the crawls and the flows and that sort of thing. And then on the other side of that is, a heavy pull like an Atlas stone or picking up a big rock or a log. And that's kind of where I'm at. So how I help people, that was how I got into unconventional training. The second part of your question was how do I help somebody is basically what I want to accomplish with any human that walks in. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a bodybuilder guy or somebody that sits at the desk for 12 hours a day, or if it's, you know, an old lady with a knee. I just want them to feel better moving. You know, I don't want them to be stiff. I don't want them to be achy. You know, that rolled forward posture that we see so much. I want people to be able to open up and you know, kind of get their shoulders back and take care of those shoulder problems, those hip problems. You know, if you can address the shoulders and the hips, you got 90% of it covered. You know, and then if you can, you know, work on ankle mobility, the rest, it all kind of falls in place. Like those are the main sticking points that I see time and time again, is those sort of three areas.
Oh, I know what you mean. Being a Since I graduated college, I've pretty much sat in the desk for the last 10 years. And when I started following you, I had developed costochondritis. I believe is how you say it, where from being hunched over, the tendons in my rib cage and where the rib joints attached to your sternum had started to become inflamed, and opening my chest became painful.
Mm.
And on top of that, I was having shoulder problems and starting to have hip problems and femoral nerve pain, and that's kind of how I started to find you. Is the the Western approach was cortisone, steroids, anti-inflammatories, muscle relaxers, and I did that stuff for a little while, but it got me nowhere. What's that?
I said, hell yeah, all that good stuff that just mask a problem instead of actually treating it.
Well, yeah, and that's, it wasn't until I started following you and trying to implement some of the things that I was seeing that you were putting out there, trying some of the things that, Jim was putting out there, Hunter Cook, where I actually started to feel better. I mean, and I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just sort of watching what you guys are doing and trying it. But what little I've done has made a huge difference for me.
Hunter Cook is like Gumby that is stupid good looking and ridiculously nice. and according to Jim, he smells good too, because Jim finally got to meet him. So it's
like naturally, or he's just soaked in cologne
he's one of
the
those
entire
guys
time.
who just smells good, and he's just so freaking nice and awesome. And every time I talk to him, he's beyond friendly, and he doesn't know me from a hole in the ground, but he's just an awesome guy. So
I think I'm just jealous of his hair when he lets that man bun down. It's this flowing curly hair.
Like, look, man, my beard's kind of scraggly there on the side, but his is perfectly lush, and it's just not fair.
Yeah, some guys got it, Mark. Not everybody can have it.
He's a great guy, and I am absolutely certain that our paths will cross one day. Maybe like, look, I'm flying out to meet you and give you a hug because you said all these nice things about me on YouTube.
So sorry, I interrupted you. So I guess it would take me. So based on what I just told you, how where would you start with me in getting me moving? Knowing I sit in a desk and have the problems.
I start everybody. Well, I mean, unless they got like a really special need, then we gotta address, like, if your shoulder's like really banjaxed up and beyond, just, oh, I'm normally stiff, you actually got some issues, then we address those specific issues. But there's kind of three elements I sort of get people going. First thing I do is I try to get people to connect to the ground again. Some basic crawling patterns. It might even be just hands and knees. So contacting the ground, getting those hands back to pressing into the ground. I'm pressing on my desk here, but you can't really see. But let's see here. There we go. So this here, like, we don't do this a lot. I mean, everything's like holding something or holding something or a remote or typing, that pressing and having our hands and wrists make contact with the ground and move. That's something. And then that bilateral pattern that we get on a call, that, right arm moves and your left knee moves, left hand, right knee. This sort of X pattern is called contralateral pattern. That's really cool for the midline and the brain kind of reassociates. It starts to reprogram everything. So I start people there on the ground. Real similar to the theory crawl before you walk. I want to get people back crawling again, reintroduce that nervous system to some things that are going on with the X pattern and moving across your body first and connecting back to the ground. That's one thing we don't do as humans much. Other things I want to address is getting people to get back down into that squat, that natural squat. And for some people, this is it can be a 2-year process for some people. It just depends on what their lifestyle is outside of our time together, how much practice and work they want to do, and also how tight they are coming in. Like if they got major ankle issues, I still have really tight ankles. My ankle mobility is crap, but I still work on it, and it's getting better. My squat still isn't pretty good. I couldn't even do it. So it's awesome. Like I can comfortably go down into a resting squat. I have a little bit of mobility to be able to move and reach out and to the side from that position. Still overhead stuff gives me a little bit of a trick. But it's always getting better. And that's kind of one of the things to start people off to is the mindset of starting off is more important than the physical part is, hey, this is a journey. We're going to start, and it never really ends. You're always just going to kind of keep getting better and keep assimilating new skills and new attributes into your physical capacity, okay? Your movement vocabulary. And then the other thing is I start people hanging on a bar. I've got some stall bars. They're really cool. So with the stall bars, I can have people do an assisted hang where their feet are still on the ground. And that starts to open up the shoulders, the wrist, wrist and elbows, that connection, that whole chain starts to open up a little bit. And then coming down the spine starts to catch length again. Even your ribs, your contra, what did you say it was?
Costochondritis. Like it's right here where the ribs attached to the sternum.
Yeah, hanging would have helped that a lot. And then all the way into the low back where the SI joint comes in. A lot of people, their first response is, man, it feels good on my low back. So hanging and getting people at overhead capacity again, getting people to squat, getting people to crawl. 3 really, really basic things that anybody can do anywhere. I start them there because what I want them to do is do it often and a lot throughout the day. I don't just want them doing it once or twice every day. I want them doing it as much. Like you walk by a bar, hang for a little bit. You are on a phone call, squat down for a little bit while you're resting. If you got to elevate your heels to get in the squat, go for it. Eventually, you'll be able to get down into that squat. It's just do it over and over and over again. Crawl on the floor. I use my kids as a great example. I just change them around on my hands and knees. It gives me an opportunity to get that patterning in. And then, of course, there's hundreds of different crawling variations and locomotives that we have from that point on. But it all kind of starts with those 3 basic things. Like I just say here, just start here, and you're going to have some success, and you're going to start to feel better with just these 3 simple things. It'd be crawling, squatting, and hanging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. I think a lot of people just expect that this natural stiffening of the body is just part of getting old. And if they're going to go work out, they need to hit the treadmill or train for a marathon or, do the other extreme, which is do nothing but lift weights. And I've got small kids like you, and watching them move, it was a real eye opener to see them because they just naturally squat perfect. They crawl perfect. They can spin around on their butt and tumble naturally. And, I don't know probably 5 adults who could do a somersault, naturally or squat or like you said, crawl on the floor without, they might have a hard time getting up, and that's.
I got 5 adults in my studio that can do that. Most of my adults can do it. But I've had to teach them how to do it. I've had to reteach them how to do it. Your point is not lost on me because being the teacher of that and watching how much it took to get people to do that, especially the rolling. People are terrified of rolling. They think they're going to break their neck or something. It's like, it's so basic. It really is such a basic pattern, just a basic forward roll. And it's also important if you take a fall, knowing how to fall is perfect. You know, when you were talking about your kids, you said they squat perfect, they crawl perfect. The first thing that came to my mind that they do better than anybody else is they fall perfect. My youngest is 10 months old. His name's Lachlan. He uh he started walking a couple days before he turned 9 months old, and he's a very proficient walker right now for being 10 months. But he still falls. But he just when he falls, it's this very loose kind of just like it's like the ankle hits, then the shin hits, then the knee hits, then the hip hits, then the side hits, then the shoulder hits, and the neck never hits. You know, it's just like this perfect melting into the ground. You know, now that far to fall, and kids are they're built to fall. They have all this soft, supple tissue, and they're very low to the ground. But if you watch a kid fall, very rarely is it even a danger to them. I mean, once in a while, they'll go back, they'll hit their head on the floor here at the house. And you do have to, be aware of that. But I never really worry when I start to see my kids fall because they're far, far less likely to get injured at falling than I am. I practice falling, to try to get more supple at it, more resilient to it, and to, again, just sort of melt into the ground. But from years of bad habits and years of stiffness, I don't have that just looseness and that sort of they just kind of melt into the ground, and that's why they don't get hurt a lot. They're also falling far more than we are, so it's again a repetition thing.
Yeah, I did Muay Thai for about 3 years out of college, and one of the first things that one of the coaches taught us, was how to fall, because he's like, it's not getting knocked out isn't what's going to hurt you. It's when you fall, when you slam on your back, like you mentioned, and not landing on your shoulders or going down sideways. If you don't do it properly, that's that's how a lot of elderly people get hurt. It's not necessarily falling that they die from, or it's either the ability not to get back up or hit, like you said, hitting their head on furniture or something.
I would take that one step further since we're on the topic. I would say the fear of falling is a huge inhibitor for adults. I'm teaching people some balance stuff, and it's almost like I have to work backwards. I have to teach them to remind them that it's okay to fall. Or even if I'm doing handstand work or cartwheel work with clients and students, I have to say, look, here's how you fall out of it. Just know that it's okay to fall, because they're so terrified that something bad's going to happen when they fall. And I mean, let's be real, but how far are you falling if you're doing a handstand? You're not going anywhere at all. Your head's only the length of your arms away from the ground. But in the mind, people think the worst case scenario because it's an unfamiliar pattern. Mm-hmm. So this sort of this instinctual fear of falling, it's a great thing. It's what's kept us alive. And there's a reason people are afraid of heights is because, you get up high enough and you fall, it is life-threatening. There's no doubt about it. You're on the edge of a cliff. There's a reason you kind of feel funny when you get over that edge and you look. It's your body saying, hey, look, this is a scenario where there's no real good way out if we do fall. It's not like falling off of a 4-foot balance beam. All right. So there is that, and I think it is largely a self-preservation mechanism, but for the sake of play and freeing the body, there's definitely a safety zone height, I would say, that people should be comfortable. You should be comfortable 10 feet off the ground. That's not that high. And you should know how to fall from that or land safely. So I think the fear of falling is actually a bigger inhibitor than actually not knowing how to fall.
Well, yeah, and in addition to that, like I feel like a lot of adults just feel like they can't play. Like it's not something that they're supposed to do. Adults don't go to the playground and climb on the monkey bars, and they don't crawl around in the dirt, and they're not. Once you get to a certain age, you don't do gymnastics, and I don't know that a lot of people. I think a lot of people are just adverse to even opening their mind to that this is something that could be beneficial to me and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm always the weird dad playing on the playground with my kids, chasing them around and things, and a lot of times when they're doing their own thing, I'm like on the monkey bars just doing my own thing. I get weird looks and stuff, and I'm out there running barefoot with them, all this stuff. And at the end of the day, I don't care like what other people think, and I really shouldn't. Like, I don't know why it became so judgmental when an adult's having a good time. Like, and I'm playing with my kids. Like, maybe it would be kind of weird if I was the only adult out there and I was kind of creeping around, whatever. But I'm not creeping around. I'm out there playing. I'm having a good time. I'm doing my own thing in my own space. So even that shouldn't be that weird. But when the guy's playing with his own kids and he's getting weird looks, I gotta be honest. Like me, I turn the judgment the other way. It's like, why aren't you playing with your kids? Why aren't you down here in the dirt with them? Why aren't you not climbing and chasing them? Why are you telling them no the whole time? I go to playgrounds, Mike, and all I hear is parents telling their kids, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Get off that. Stop running. Get off that. Like, they're outside. Let them play. Let them be a freaking kid. And it's so frustrating because we, you and my generation, the generation, even our parents, uh, the generation now, we're all a product of this society that is just like completely anti-play. Look at our entire structure of everything. From our school system, we put our kids in a chair for 6 hours a day when they're 5 years old, and they stay in a chair. They get that best 30 minutes of recess. Unless you go to some fancy private school, guess what? Then they get 30 minute recesses a day for a total whopping of 90 minutes of play outside. That's 90 freaking minutes. That's nothing.
Yeah. And
It's
then they've taken away pretty much, they've taken away a lot of sports, dodgeball, because somebody could get hurt, either physically or emotionally, because heaven forbid some kids might excel at others, or, we
hey,
don't want to be sued because somebody got a black eye for, just roughhousing or playing a game of basketball. I mean,
that red ball can
it's
sting some
toxic.
feelings. You know,
So, yeah.
that red ball can sting some feelings.
Mhm.
You don't want to be last. And you're right. You hit another point. Another hot topic for me is the oversensitivity in our country. Is dehumanizing us. Humans are supposed to be resilient. Humans are supposed to we have a broad spectrum of emotions. We're gonna experience emotions. You should be able to get your feelings hurt and move on, grow from that experience. Maybe let's try. Maybe talk about it to somebody if your feelings get hurt. Hey, what you said hurt my feelings. Here's why it hurt my feelings. Here's how we can move past this and continue to be humans and communicate about it. But it's all lost. Instead, we go on about something and then make a big rule, and then nobody can have any fun or do anything anymore.
Well, yeah, and you see it a lot with I work in a big office with thousands of people, and a lot of millennials, and I'm not an expert on it, but it seems like they don't know how to deal with criticism and emotion and this interpersonal communication, and maybe a lot of that stems from the fact that they weren't allowed. Like their whole generation, everybody was trying to get them to avoid having hurt feelings and avoid dealing with pain and avoid dealing with failure and rejection. And let's make everything as safe as possible. But now you got a generation of adults who've never dealt with any of that. They've never had a skin
Deal.
knee or lost or been in a fight. It's crazy.
They can't deal. When I was young, I got in fist fights on the playground and stuff like that, and was friends with the people afterwards. Sometimes it was even picking the guy up after I whooped their ass, grab him up from the ground. Hey man, it was a hell of a fight. You're cool. It's all squashed now.
Mhm.
But you're right. We have a generation of adults that cannot cope. They can't cope. They can't deal. And the problem is, mommy and daddy ain't gonna be around forever to fix things, and they don't know how to deal with situations. So, checked on my YouTube page today. I had my first thumbs down on my 72-hour bag video. I was okay with it. Somebody didn't like it. That's all right.
Well,
Like,
it's
somebody
probably
disagreed with me.
that's probably because there was no booze in it. The guy was probably disappointed there wasn't a flask or something, a big heavy bottle of Jack at the bottom.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, whatever.
Mhm.
That's what the machete's for, to go get the booze. You take it.
You steal it from the campers when you're lost in the woods.
That's right. That's right. But so anyway, I think that our back to our point, we digressed a little bit, but our point of this this society is very anti-play. If you look at it, it's way too serious, and people aren't getting outside enough at all. I think there was something maybe I think I shared it last week that the average kid, what is it? It's like 27 minutes a day outside now is what the average kid is getting. Or it's too. I mean, it was insane. Like, I'll have to find that stat again. But people aren't getting outside. Kids aren't getting outside. Kids aren't playing. Adults aren't playing. It's frowned upon if you're an adult and you play. Which all this makes my business super difficult sometimes. It's a hard sale. It really is. I try to explain what I do. People say, "Hey, what's a movement coach?" Well, my interpretation of it, the way I teach and the way I run my studio is I always tell people this sort of synopsis of what I do. I say I try to get adults, people, humans, to move better, to move as they once did. Think of yourself as a 9 or 10-year-old. The capacity you had to play, to do anything. You could run, jump, climb, crawl. You didn't think about it. You didn't have any pain. There was nothing holding you back from doing those things. And that's what I want to get you to do again as an adult. I tell people this, and I get people looking at me like, llamas. They just stare at me and just chew or something.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm
it's
like,
like,
how is that so foreign? Like, just what fourth graders do? They're awesome. They are great movers. They
oh, they're just so far removed from it. And like you talked about, everybody's just programmed for fear, fear of the cold, fear of moving. I mean, other adults don't do this. So if I do this, I'm going to be a little different. And I'm afraid of how people might, look at me if I'm climbing and I think that's hard to break, man. All
oh,
those years of conditioning.
my classes are so weird, Mike. They really are. Like, if you came in and just walked by, you'd be like, "Holy crap, this is weird." But I don't take a new person and give them the weirdest stuff I have. I ease them into it, and then when I get there, I say, "Look, embrace the weird. Embrace the weird and embrace the suck too. Like, you're gonna suck at things, and we're gonna get better. That's what it's all about." I suck at all kinds of things, but it doesn't bother me. I just work at it to get better.
Yeah, well, you must be really good at it because I've watched that playing outdoors video, and the play like a kid video, and your clients, are incredible movers. I'm sure they didn't start out that way, but watching some of them crawl and climb and swing from trees, they don't move like most people. So you're doing something incredibly
Well,
well.
thank you. And you actually should see the lot of that group that is still with me from that video. You should see them now because they move far better than they did in that video. It's funny. I go back and I look at some of these old videos. I'm like, oh gosh, what is that? But it's all part of the process. You keep doing it, you get better at it. I look at my Swamp Thing video. It's my most successful video on YouTube. And I mean, I just see all kinds of limitations and patterns. On my squat, there's a huge valgus collapse, my right knee. I'm almost on the instep of my right foot, and my squat is so bad that my right shoulder is bound up when I go into the bridge position. I mean, there's no extension at all. I can barely get my arm back, but people loved it, and it looked great. To an eye that isn't seen it, and now if I do that stuff, it's so much more fluid. It's so much smoother now. It's a lot like water now. That same flow, I could do it, now, and it would be just, and what's cool is I remember the flow pretty much too. I don't have to see it to do it. It's movement and play is a powerful learning mechanism. You like imprint these patterns, and you can just do them.
Yeah, I think Mike Fitch is another guy. And when he does his movement stuff, it almost looks like breakdancing sometimes.
Mhm.
And he's just flowing and playing and just freestyling, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to meet Mike Fitch sometime. I've heard nothing but good things about the guy. But yeah, I've gotten that before. especially the low crawling patterns. That man, that kind of looks like breakdancing. And you
Hmm.
know, if it looks like that, then cool. If you have an association, it's just all movement to me. And if it looks like something great, guess what? Dance is movement. Martial arts is movement. Gymnastics is movement. You know, it's all movement to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you were talking about with being limited. The first time I tried to do a scorpion, about a year ago, I was just lying on my stomach with my arms out flat on my stomach, and I couldn't r- move my leg to touch the ground. I actually could barely get my leg past my spine. Um, it was just so stiff and hadn't moved in that direction. And now I can rotate all the way over and get the sole of my foot flat on the ground on the other side. But it took a long time just to undo the damage that sitting in a chair in an office has done to me over the last 10 years.
We have the scorpion is I think number 5 in our current warm up because it's a great twist and is great for the hips and shoulder and low
Mhm.
back because most people sit. That's in our warm up right now at Asylum Fitness.
Well, hey, Mark, we're getting close to an hour. I think you and I talked about doing a lot of these, so why don't we just wrap it up there, and maybe we can get into some of these, individual movements on another hangout sometime.
That'd be perfect. Thanks for
Um,
having me on your show and for the chit chat.
oh, sure, man. It's yeah, like I said, you've following you has changed my life. It's a pleasure that having you contribute to the site. And um, I consider you a friend, and I love the things you put out. I look forward to building this relationship, learning more from you, sharing your knowledge with the people that follow our site and follow our channel. So thank you.
I appreciate that, and that's such an honor for you to say that. I really, appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
Right on, Mark. Well, have a good night. Hopefully, the kids will sleep through the night for you, and we'll catch up. We'll catch up offline.
All right, cheers, man.
All right, cheers.